All right, we're back. This is David Harris from Strength Performance Network, live from the NSCA Conference in Orlando, Florida, 2015. We have an opportunity to now spend some time with Jeff Connors, who's the head strength conditioning coach at Eastern Carolina University. We were catching up a little bit earlier, Jeff, and I think I'd love to just talk. Well, your history of how you got into strength and conditioning sounds very interesting, and what you were doing before that. But I'd love to just spend a little bit of time letting our listeners learn a little bit about your background, how you did get into the industry, and you've been in it a long time. So we'll talk a little bit about what you've seen over that time and your thoughts on the industry itself.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity, and I was coaching actually high school football for a number of years, and was coaching at in a postgraduate program in Tennessee, and I got interested in powerlifting through a guy named Rusty Clayton out of Cleveland, Tennessee, and of course Doc Crease was around during that time. He was at Vanderbilt, and he was hosting powerlifting events and so forth. So I got involved in competitive powerlifting after I got out of college. I really just missed playing football. I played defensive back at a small school in West Virginia, Salem, West Virginia. And so I missed competition, so I got into some powerlifting meets, met Doc Crease and a lot of other interesting characters at that time through the state of Tennessee. And then from there, had an opportunity after a period of time of coaching at the high school level to move to the collegiate level at Bucknell University as a strength and conditioning coach, and also had multiple responsibilities then. I think I was a director of about 3 or 4 dorms, and I was one of the teachers at the local high school, and I was just spinning a lot of different plates. I was a recruiting coordinator for wrestling and working closely with the wrestling program. And actually, Joe Susan was then also the offensive line coach there. I think he's now the head coach there, but at that time he was also acting as the strength coach. And so when I came in, I had to convince him that he could kind of turn that responsibility over to me. And so over a period of time, we were able to do that, and that's kind of how I got launched into this profession. And so I never was a GA or an assistant. I just took over as a head strength coach, and then I kind of progressed from there. When I was at Bucknell University, I also got my principal's certificate, master's degree, and at that time I met a guy named Ronnie Jones, who was the strength coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. And Ronnie and I would have speed development clinics. We were affiliated with a guy named Kevin McNair, who I think is, in my mind, was a pioneer of speed development for football. And he was working with some of the NFL teams, the Philadelphia Eagles being one of those. And so I got to know Kevin, I got to know Ronnie. And so that kind of propelled my interest in speed development, along with the fact that, of course, through my career, I was a defensive back. I think I was the last white corner in college football, but so I always had to find ways to try to get faster. So that kind of propelled me into the profession, and Ronnie had some contacts at East Carolina University, and he secured me an interview over a period of time, and somehow I ended up being lucky enough and fortunate enough to be hired at East Carolina as a strength coach back in 1991, and it was very fortunate because moving into that upcoming season, we ended up being 11-1 and ended up being ranked 9th in the country at the end of the year. So it was a tremendous experience for me, and a great start into the profession. And we also won the Peach Bowl that year. We defeated North Carolina State, so that was a big win for us, the in-state rivalry and so forth. So it was a great experience and a great time to get into the profession.
You mentioned that you've gone down the road to focusing on, among other things, speed development with your athletes. What's your philosophy when you bring in a college athlete for the first time, they first come into your program, in terms of how you gauge where they are speed-wise and determining what's appropriate for them from a speed development standpoint?
Well, I think everything, it goes back to strength. And I think if you become stronger, that you can become faster, and I think it's essential to become stronger in order to become faster. But when we look at athletes that come in from the high school level, of course, I'm not convinced that any of them can run properly, and some of them have actually run track and and of course they've been multi-sport athletes and so forth. But I very seldom see someone who I'm totally happy with in relationship to posture, force application, flexibility, all those types of things that are important to becoming fast. In our program, we want to make sure that we work the muscle groups that are that basically overcome inertia. So you're looking at the posterior chain for the most part, the glutes, the hamstrings. You're looking at the adductors. We want to make sure that whatever exercises we choose, those exercises are specific to giving us a chance to become faster, more specifically improve our acceleration, because we know that's the essence of the game of football. And so we become stronger, we convert that strength to power, we convert that power to linear speed, we convert that linear speed to football-specific speed. And so everything, if we're becoming faster, everything in our program, I believe, is then can be justified as being in line, because you can trace everything back to what it takes to become faster. And so when I first came to East Carolina this second time, I think I had around 14 guys that were running a sub 4.6 indoor. Right now we've built it up to 36, and I'm really proud of that. And so we know we're testing those guys under the same exact conditions, same surface, same weather conditions, of course, because we're inside, same shoe wearing, same people timing. And let's say that if you're going to, for instance, if I clocked you at a 4.3, you would have to be clocked 5 out of 6 on 5 out of 6 clocks at 4.3 to get credit for a 4.3. So, we want to have reliability in our testing as well, but that's something that we really hang our hat on. We've got 5 lanes, 60 yards indoor, and we also have run rockets in each lane, which is a great piece of equipment that I've grown to become very fond of. We have a lot of space in our weight room. We have a multi-purpose area as well that's turfed for change of direction and so forth, and football-specific drills. And so linear speed and fluidity of movement is the end result, and we think if we can make people more athletic, then we have a chance. And of course at East Carolina, we don't get 4- and 5-star athletes very often. We mostly get 1, 2, and 3 stars. And so what I say is, within 2 years, I expect to add 2 more stars to your resume. And so I think we're able to do that, even though those stars don't mean a whole lot to me. What means a whole lot to me is overachievement, and I think we're able to do that.
So with your speed program, when you consider the different types of positions on a football team, does a lineman work through your program in a similar fashion as a defensive back, or do you tailor it based on the positions they play in? In other words, when you're looking to just develop speed, do you need to tailor that by specific position, or is your program applicable across the board?
Well, we know what offensive linemen do is very, very specific. And so just like this summer, I always say the main thing is the main thing. And now your position coaches are allowed to become involved 2 hours a week. And we have a new offensive line coach. And I thought it was very important that I sacrifice some of the time that I had with regard to what I was going to do with the linemen so that he could work with them and fill up that 2 hours to make sure that he's teaching them his system, and also the uniqueness of the movements that they have to execute to be successful as offensive linemen. And we know what they do is much different. A kick slide is much different than coming off the line. As a defensive lineman and having a 2-gap responsibility or something of that nature. So, yes, what we do for linemen is different, but at the same time, I don't count anybody out. I believe that linemen can be as athletic as anyone else in any other position group. So we don't want them to get the idea that because they're a lineman that they can't be athletic. And so, we want to make sure that that they're lean, and we want to make sure that they can move. And I expect them to be athletic enough and have good enough feet to be able to execute the drills that that are encompassed in our program for all our position groups. And at the same time, of course, we expect them to learn acceleration mechanics, because those mechanics are going to be specific to every position group. But at the same time, we realize that position-specific training has a very heavy uniqueness with regard to what offensive linemen do. So this winter, what we did is we had our linemen, our offensive and defensive linemen, on a 4-day program, and we had our skill and mids on a 3-day program, 5 days of speed development. And then, of course, we had our hard gainers, and they were on a 4-day program as well, are guys that needed to gain weight, gain lean mass. And in order for them to have a chance to play, we knew that they had to get bigger and stronger. So, you have to prioritize what the needs are for each individual and also each position group.
Where do you, when you put an athlete on your strength program and your speed program, and an athlete comes in for a day of training, do they start with that speed program and then go into the weight room, or the other way around?
We always run first. We want to be fresh when we run, and there's. I've gone back and forth with this sometimes. When we had a heavy Olympic lifting day, for instance, and you want to be fresh from a neural standpoint, if you're going to do platform work, I get that, and I've been there and done that. And at the same time, what I've found over the years is that our athletes perform just as well in relationship to gaining strength and power even after they run. And some days are tempo days. They're not as strenuous to the neuromuscular system, of course, and some days are max effort speed days. And of course, the tempo days, you want to match those up with days when you're going to have more of an expectation, let's say on the platform. You might match up your tempo days with your platform days, but we always have at least 2 max effort speed days. And generally speaking, we always run first, and we find that the running serves as a great warm-up to the lift. And so, we find that actually some of our athletes seem to be firing even better after they run. So over a period of time, our program has evolved to the extent where most of the time we run our athletes first.
So you've been doing this in this industry for a long time. How have you evolved, I guess, your strategy with regard to training collegiate athletes from, let's say, earlier on in your career to where you are today, in terms of how you implement your...
I'm a meat and potatoes guy and always have been, so some of the things I've never changed. I think you have some of the things that you do are trial and error and are scientifically you have to look at the science as well, but at the same time you have recipes. And so recipe, trial and error, and scientific, those are the 3 things that I like to look at. And I have recipes in relationship to, we're going to bench press, we're going to power clean, we're going to back squat, we're going to push jerk. And so, I'm probably never going to change those things. I think they have to be taught properly. I think that's very important. We usually strain through heavy weight at least 1 day a week. And then we've gone back and forth over the years in relationship to what's the best thing to do on that alternative day. We've done dynamic training. We've done a lot of different things with tendo units to measure bar speed. Of course, we've used chain and bands for accommodating resistance and so forth. And we've tried a lot of things over the years. I've subscribed to and looked at pretty much whatever's out there. And I've basically I've been a good thief over the years. I've stolen a lot of things from other people. Of course, when Louis Simmons came on and Dave Tate, I brought those guys in to Carolina a couple years, took a look at that system. I've brought a lot of people from the Olympic lifting world in and clinic with those individuals, and of course I've got all kinds of mentors with regard to speed development. And so I'm still trying to learn, and that's why I'm here at this conference right now, because I'm taking a look at what Boo Shakespeare is talking about through the conference. I've had him at ECU before, and I've also received his certification when I went down to the National Track and Field Conference. But I have great respect for him, and that's one of the reasons I'm here this week.
How about data? Are you a big data guy? I mean, when we've been walking around here, we've noticed more technology companies, and it seems like that's the case every time we come here. You believe in incorporating technology into your training and using that data as a way to understand how to progress an athlete?
Well, I really I've studied it a little bit, and I'm kind of looking at what other people are doing to an extent, but at the same time, my budget is not the same as it was when I was at Carolina. When I was at Carolina, I probably could have purchased some of these things just to look at and see if I liked it or not. Right now, basically, we have to make every dollar count. And so when we're making every dollar count, and I look at GPS systems, for instance, and I look at all these things with regard to proper recovery. I really believe that I can look at my best athletes in relationship to their effort, and I can tell a lot of things about recovery. Essentially, if technology can tell me who's loafing and not giving me effort, then I want to subscribe to that kind of technology, because the 2 things that I require of our athletes never change. That's 100% accountability and 100% effort. And so if I'm not getting 100% effort, I want to know that. You know, somebody's skipping a rep, somebody's not giving me a full speed rep. If we're doing a max effort speed a day, you know, these are things that can be valuable to me. So if that technology can give me that information, I'm all about it. And so, you know, I definitely wanted to continue to look at it.
Prior to talking to you, as you know, we were talking to Fred Eves and about his philosophy at the high school level, and there you're dealing with kids who come in, you know, 15 to 18 years old, and there's a pretty wide discrepancy in some instances of the physical development of those folks. When you're at the college level, 18 to 22, at that discrepancy gets a little smaller, although significant growth and development, you know, from your program between freshman and senior year. How do you look at a freshman that comes in at 18 and compare them to, let's say, a junior, a skilled junior, and do you put them on different programs or right away because this person is a freshman at 18, or is there an evaluation that takes place and maybe that freshman is more advanced than another freshman and therefore he or she might be on the same program as, let's say, a skilled junior?
We always look at that. We always look at that window of adaptation. That's what I like to refer to it as. And sometimes with regard to some of these football players, specifically that come into your program, they've been doing bench press since about 6th grade. And so that window of adaptation may have closed significantly even at this point. But I think you can still develop them with regard to that exercise. But if you look at back squat, if you look at power clean, if you look at a lot of the exercises involving hip rotary power, leg strength, there's still a large window of adaptation there. If you look at core strengthening, if you look at what you can do with them with regard to force application, teaching them how to perform multi-jumping and bounding and things of this nature, that are going to help them to develop. I think there's a wide window of adaptation with pretty much everybody who comes in the door. And you know, again, I'll say that with regard to speed development, that I think every single athlete that comes in from high school has a long way to go where that's concerned. So we hope that the red shirts, we hope that the first year guys will become red shirts, and so essentially we're going to have another off season with them. So we'll have a good 12 weeks, 12 to 16 weeks that we can train them, and we can test them several times through that process, and also we can basically teach them. We can teach them with regard to speed development and also the lifting. And so I think you have a great opportunity there if, in fact, you can redshirt a lot of kids. So, you know, I look forward to that every year, that developmental year, and hopefully I have a large number of those freshmen that we sign in that group. If some of these kids are good enough to contribute on the field, then, of course, that's what they have to do, and that's the head coach's decision. But I still believe that athletes coming in at the collegiate level really have a long way to go with regard to maximizing their potential, and I also believe that a lot of athletes, even after they've gone on to the NFL, still have a ways to go to maximize their potential. I think I always had to dream of bench pressing, you know, benching 400 pounds, and I think I finally did at age 42. So, and I have one witness. But, you know, I think you can get stronger as you get older as well.
So we were talking earlier, I know you said you had a book that you've actually published. Can you talk a little bit about that and what's in the book, and I guess what inspired you to write it?
I wrote the book a little bit over a year ago, Strength Coach, A Call to Serve. It's kind of a pseudo-biography. It's also, you know, just a lot of stories about my experiences getting into this profession, my experiences in this profession, some of the responsibilities I've had that have been somewhat unique. When I was working with Steve Logan at ECU, I had this unique responsibility giving pregame talks, so that got to be interesting after a while, to where I got bored with myself, and I'm sure everybody else got bored with me as well. So I started bringing in military people and martial arts people, and I had 2 guys fight in the locker room for 3 rounds before one of the games, and you know, we try to think of all kinds of different unique things we could do.
Did you win that game?
We sure did. It was Cincinnati. We won that game. It was a night game in the mud. I'll never forget it. So our head coach didn't know that I was going to have guys fighting in the locker room. So when he walked in, he was pretty much in a state of shock. But it really made things very interesting. And I brought a martial arts guy in. He was probably about 5'3", and when he jumped up and kicked the ceiling, that got everybody's attention too. So. So, we did a lot of fun things during that time that none of us will probably ever forget. And really, one of the things we did during that time as well is we did some crazy conditioning, and we really conditioned extremely hard in the summers. And we had a group of kids that kept raising the standard almost to where I didn't even want to raise it anymore. I was like, I don't even believe you can do this anymore. But that's what they hung their hat on, and they had a lot of fourth quarter success just because they believed that nobody was in better shape than they were. So, we had some special things that went on during that decade of the 90s at East Carolina, and that's one of the things that kind of drew me back to, to wanting to come back to East Carolina, which I consider to be home.
Jeff, thank you so much. This has been fantastic spending time with you. I appreciate it. I know you've been in this industry a long time. You got a lot going on here, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come and spend some time with us here. I just had one more question for you. So if you're someone who's new to the industry or trying to get into the industry, what kind of advice would you give them in terms of the approach they should take to really grow and have a career that, it spans decades like yours?
Well, I think it's a great industry, and I think that the guys like us have been around for a number of decades, and I can think of a lot of guys that have really worked hard to grow this industry. I'm very proud of where this industry has come. And I think that you can take a lot of pride in becoming a strength and conditioning professional because it just continues to grow and get better. And I think that you should align yourself with several people within the profession that have been around. Start as a grad assistant or intern. What I did is I just found the people out there I thought were the smartest people around. I just drove them crazy until they basically either gave me a break or listened to what I had to say. Bill Kramer was one of them. Ronnie Jones that I mentioned was one of them. But you got to stay in people's ear and let them know that you have a great passion for it. And somebody at some point will give you a break if you have that type of persistence. But if you have a passion for something, then you got to go ahead and pursue it. And that's why I pursued it, because I wanted to help young people get better. That's the main purpose. The main reason I got in this, for the satisfaction of seeing people progress and learn accountability and learn work ethic, things that they could take into their life after their collegiate career and become successful. And you hope that they're thankful, but what's more important is they respect you. And so I would encourage these young people who have a passion for this profession to go ahead and align themselves with a few people, try and determine what their weaknesses and strengths are. Once they've identified their weaknesses, make sure that they align themselves at that point with people who can strengthen their weaknesses so they're comprehensively strong across the board in relationship to what they can offer.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate your time. Jeff Connors from Eastern Carolina University, signing off for today. Thanks. Thanks a lot.